Hey everybody, it's Josh from WA Production, and today I'm really excited to talk about this synth Proclethya from Dymai Sound. It's really awesome. It is easy to use and easy to create some amazing sounds with. So if you're looking for a new spark of inspiration and some new presets to play with and all of that, I think it's an awesome option for you to get started with. We just added it to the WA Production store. And what's also really awesome is that it comes with 3 sound banks as well as a sample pack if you buy it from waproduction.com. Basically, it's an analog sounding synth that really does a great job on basses, on leads, on plucks, on arpeggios and sequences. So let's jump in and hear how it sounds, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the plugin itself. Alright, so starting off with how Proclethya looks, it really is reminiscent of a lot of other synths. So if you have experience with a variety of synths, then you'll probably be pretty comfortable on it really quickly, which is great. It doesn't take a lot of time to learn, but there are some really cool features that you won't find in every other synth. So firstly, you start with 2 oscillators, which is fairly common, an oscillator A, oscillator B. And then what is pretty unique is you've got this really cool mix knob, mix triangle, whatever you want to call it, in the middle that does a crossfade. If you want to do more traditional mixing of the oscillators, you can jump into this panel where you've got oscillator A, oscillator B, you've also got a sub oscillator and a noise oscillator. So that can be added as well. But this can create some really cool effects when you are moving from one to the other. So obviously that's a really basic sound. I think it's a saw and a square wave just mixing together, but there's some really unique things you can do depending on what you do with oscillator A and B. And then obviously you can mix them together a little bit more precisely using this one. And throw in a sub if you want. So that's all pretty standard other than the crossfade part. So, you've got a sub oscillator. You can put in some noise if you want to. So pretty basic stuff there. But where it gets really cool is when you dive into the oscillators, you can also have this second doubling oscillator turned on for either of them. And while pretty much all synths have the detune option, not all of them have it set up like this, where I feel like it gives you a little bit more control, where if you turn that off, then there isn't really any detuning and it works a bit differently. And you turn it on, then you can turn on the detuning. So with it off, let's actually switch it over just to A. I'll turn the sub oscillator off too, though. And then we turn it on. And then what's also cool is with the second oscillator on, you can turn on mono if you want, which will sum the two together and produce a mono signal. So you can hear the difference. It's much wider when we turn off the mono setting as well. And then for an additional kind of analog sound, they have this drift option, which from the way I can tell how it sounds, it really just kind of sounds like a little bit of randomization of the oscillator. When you have an analog synth, it's using actual electric current to produce the sounds. And obviously that is never going to be consistent and perfect every time. And there's always a little bit of movement. That's what kind of gives it that warm analog sound. And so they've done a good job of emulating that here. it just kind of sounds a little bit off key, out of tune, not like off key bad, but it just gives it a little bit of imperfection that sounds kind of nice. So that's something you can do on each oscillator. And then, so you've got the unison, you've got the unison spread. And what's really helpful too is they've got this really nice understated info panel right here. So every time you hover over a different knob, it'll tell you what that is. So if you're not sure what USPR is, it's unison spread. So that's really helpful to add that as well. Another cool thing that Proclethya has is this FM modulation. So you can turn that on, and it's got FM for both oscillators, and it's got pretty standard settings for FM, but they're actually a bit different between A and B. So for this one, you can select the coarseness, the basically like the tuning of the FM modulation. And the color. But then in FMB, you actually have some different settings where you can select the modulation waveform. So saw, square, noise wave, all of those things. As well as the pulse width. So it gives you a little bit of extra control depending on which oscillator you're using, which is kind of cool. The tuning is pretty standard, fine tuning, semitones, and octaves. So, nothing crazy there. And then if we head over to the filter section, again, nothing super out of the box, but you've got these different filters you can select from. And you can actually have a second filter in serial here, which is kind of cool. So basically 2 filters operating one after the other. And you've got different settings here, the bipolar amount, the drive envelope settings, the envelope attack, the key tracking, and some other things, as well as saturation. So that can really give it some grit and dirt there in combination with the filter. And then you can also high pass and low pass each of the oscillators individually. So that's kind of cool as well. So I'm going to start back afresh from the initial preset, and let's try and make something a bit cooler sounding than that. So we've got this sound here. So that's pretty cool. All right, so now we've got the LFO over here that can control various things. There's 2 LFOs, so you can change the shape of the LFO. You can alter what it affects, so the filter. And so, yeah, you can create some cool effects there. We can use another one to affect the pitch, maybe. So that's pretty cool. So we can have those kind of play at the same speed. Where did that one go? Aha. Now let's add in a sub oscillator. That'll sound cool. And over here, we can decide whether the sub and noise should go with the same amp envelope as the oscillators, which I think I would like for this sound. And so this is the general amp envelope of the entire sound, basically. Cool. And then this is the envelope for the filter as well. So you can have it kind of open over time. You can have it close over time. There's a lot you can do with it, which is pretty fun. So, okay, and then if we jump down to here, you've got the effects panel. We can obviously turn on 4 different effects, which includes reverb, chorus, delay, and phaser, and adjust each accordingly. What's pretty cool with this reverb too is that you've got this ducking option, which will duck the, actually you've got it on all of the effects, or reverb and delay, so really the time-based effects. And you can have them duck out of the way of the original signal. So that way you can have it so that the sound is not becoming muddy because of the reverb or delay that you've got on it. So you can also dial that in. You don't have to have it duck completely, but have it duck a little bit so that it doesn't totally envelop your main sound. So there it's really pronounced. You can hear the reverb just comes right in after I let go of the key, which is a cool effect if that's what you want, but probably usually you want to have it be a little more subtle. So that's pretty cool. You can see how the chorus sounds. Probably going to leave that off for this sound since I've got a lot of low end there, and chorus can be a little crazy with that. Pretty typical phaser sound and some delay. Can adjust the left and right channels separately. You can sync them. Lots of different things you can do. Okay. And then the last really cool parts here I'll go over are here at the top. First, you can make the entire thing mono. So everything's mono now, and you can adjust the glide. I think the glide parameters here are really, really awesome, and they sound really good for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why it is. I just think maybe the algorithm or the equation of the slope is really nice, and it's very pretty, and I think it kind of gives you maybe a wider range than some other glides in other plugins do by default. Sounding spooky. Sounds like a ghost or something. So anyway, that's pretty cool. You've got the stereo width here, which is nice. I don't think most, not all plugins have this kind of master stereo width here. You obviously should be a little careful with it, probably to avoid phasing and things, but you've got that, you got the main volume, you've got the transpose. I just find that things in this plugin are super easy and they're self-explanatory, and everything is kind of in places where it makes sense for them to be. Nothing is really hidden. You obviously can go into settings and there's some more options and things like that, but generally everything is kind of easy to find and easy to do really quickly. It's not a plugin where you're going to have to spend hours and hours learning it, but it's very powerful and you can create some really awesome sounds. All right, and so the last couple things here, the Arpeggiator, which can create some of these awesome sequences over here. So you can choose the number of steps, how fast it goes, what the rate is essentially. We can slow it down. I like that triplet, 1/8. So that basically adjusts how many steps it's moving by. And this is all just, you drag it, you pull it, and you adjust. You can add some shuffle, which will add some groove to it. So it doesn't sound great if you turn it up too much on this one in particular, but it just kind of has notes play a little early, play a little late to add some more humanized groove to it. And you can adjust the octave. You can add some pumping effect, which is pretty cool. So you can do that without having to throw on kickstart or anything like that. Just a really awesome set of parameters that you don't find in a lot of arpeggiators. From my perspective, I don't think I've ever seen a pump effect in an arpeggiator. I'm sure some of you will comment that I'm totally wrong and that all arpeggiators have it, but I don't see it that often. So that's pretty cool to me. And yeah, so that's a really awesome tool. So you can adjust the length of each one and the velocity here. So yeah, very cool. Love that arpeggiator. I love arpeggios in general. And then you've got this EQ panel as well, where it's pretty straightforward 3-band EQ, and you can just choose the frequency, choose the gain, and choose the EQ, which, as you probably know, is kind of how narrow or wide these are all bell EQ points, so the bell is. So yeah. All right. So that's about all I have for you. So I really love this new plugin. I honestly think that it's got so many cool things that you can do with it and so many great sounds that come with it. The different presets it comes with are really awesome. Like I said at the beginning, it also comes with 3 sound banks in addition to the factory presets if you buy it from us. So lots of great sounds in here. So yeah, there's a lot you can do with it, and I just think that it'll be a great addition to your toolkit. So hope you guys like it. We're really excited to have Proclethya on our store, and I hope this real quick rundown and review of the plugin is helpful for you. And if you like it, go give it a try. Take care, and I will see you next time.